Hey folks, I'm John Lee and welcome back to the channel. Okay, so in the previous video we talked about why it is so difficult for the United States to convince South Korea to join the Quad and about the different kinds of problems that the two countries has had and how to fix them. Now today we're going to continue that discussion. We're going to talk about whether or not the United States could actually convince South Korea to join the Quad. Now the main reason why it has been so difficult for the United States to convince South Korea to join the Quad is the unique relationships that South Korea has with the United States and with China. Now, the relationship with the United States is vital to South Korea. The alliance is the anchor for South Korea. Without this alliance with the United States, South Korea would not have existed at all. And so it treasures this extremely important relationship. But it also values the relationship that it has with China. And that's because, of course, China is South Korea's largest and most important trading partner. If that were to be severed, the South Korean economy and the South Korean people would suffer tremendously. And because China has deep suspicions about the Quad, it would be irate if South Korea were to join the Quad, and of course, it would deteriorate the relationship that exists between South Korea and China. So in the previous video, we talked about how South Korea and the United States could repair the relationship between the two countries. But even if the relationship was completely healthy between Washington and Seoul, it would still be very difficult to get South Korea to agree to join the Quad. But would it be impossible to get South Korea to join the Quad? That's where I disagree. I think it is still possible to get South Korea to join the Quad, but it would be difficult and it will be expensive. And we're going to talk about why. Now, the key phrase that I keep repeating over and over again is that for South Korea, its relationship with China is extremely important because for South Korea, China is its largest and most important trading partner. And the only way that the United States could ever convince South Korea to join the Quad or to take any position that might help the United States to contain China is by supplanting China as South Korea's largest and most important trading partner.
How do you fight an idea, especially a new idea?
You ask how to fight an idea. I'll tell you how. With another idea.
So how can America really transplant China as South Korea's largest and most important trading partner? Well, there are two ways forward. The first way forward is for America to really massively expand foreign direct investment to South Korea. And the second way forward is for America to be willing to share technology with South Korea, sensitive technology. Let's talk about direct investment first. Now, for the past several decades, South Korea has been the manufacturing hub of East Asia, but due to China's rapid economic rise, South Korea has been losing that status. At first, it was just some cheap toys, but now it's semiconductors, smartphones. Everything that South Korea has been able to produce, China can do better, and China can do it more cheaply. And South Korea has been feeling the pinch for quite a long time now. And it's because of this intense competition that South Korea is facing from China that whenever South Korean presidents talk about the future of the South Korean economy, they always mention these four words, and they are the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So what does this vision for the Fourth Industrial Revolution really look like? Well, there are a number of things that the South Korean government likes to talk about. They are 5G, perhaps 6G in the future, artificial intelligence. They're also talking about technology that will help to reduce greenhouse gases, such as solar panels, wind turbines, talking about magnetic railways. There are lots of things that the South Korean government is really looking at to help make sure that the South Korean economy remains afloat and is competitive vis-a-vis China. But South Korea needs all the help it can get. And South Korea can get a lot of that help via foreign direct investment from the United States. And there's also quite a bit of sensitive technology that the United States can share with South Korea. Now, it took a long time for the United States to be comfortable enough with sharing this technology, but finally, over the past few years, America started exporting stealth jet fighters to countries that are allied to it. And South Korea has been one of those countries that has imported F-35 stealth fighter jets. But there is one other thing that South Korea really wants to get its hands on. Now, over the past several decades, and to this present day, South Korea's biggest national security concern has been North Korea. And that is why the army has taken the largest chunk of South Korea's defense expenditures. But slowly but surely, South Korea is trying to look more outwards. South Korea is not the same country that it was several decades ago, where the only thing that it needed to worry about was its own little peninsula. Now, in order to make sure that the South Korean economy is secure, it needs to make sure that there's peace and stability in various other parts of the world. And that is why South Korea has also been really investing heavily in its Air Force and its Navy. And right now, one of the biggest things that South Korea really wants for its Navy is a nuclear submarine. But due to nuclear proliferation concerns, the United States has been unwilling to aid South Korea in this endeavor. Now, there are other countries that South Korea can turn to get help for its nuclear submarines, such as Russia and France and Brazil. However, due to this alliance that South Korea has with the United States, if South Korea decides to reach out to other countries to get help with its nuclear submarine, it could backfire and damage relationship between the United States and South Korea again. And so South Korea is not all that keen on asking other countries for help in this regard. Now, Joe Biden has been very much on the anti-proliferation train for a long time, and with his presidency, it would be unrealistic to think that he would be all of a sudden okay with sharing nuclear submarine technology with South Korea. But if Joe Biden could really look at things a little bit more differently than he has been, if he really wants to get South Korea to be much more open to cooperating with the United States in containing China, this is a really surefire way to get South Korean support. Now, foreign direct investment and the sharing of technology would be great. South Koreans would be thrilled about that. But in order to make sure that South Korea is firmly within America's camp, to make sure that South Korea is willing to help America in practically every matter, including the containment of China, is for America to help South Korea with its key national security concern, which is North Korea. Now, in that debate that Joe Biden had with Donald Trump, he said that he wants North Korea to denuclearize. Now, with all due respect, that's not going to happen. In a previous video, I already talked about why North Korea would not be willing to denuclearize, and so I'm not going to go over that again. But North Korea is not ever going to get rid of its nuclear weapons. North Korea is a de facto nuclear power, and there's nothing anyone can do about that anymore. But does it mean that we have to sign a peace treaty with North Korea? While North Korea would be thrilled with having a peace treaty, while South Korea would also be thrilled about having a peace treaty might not be the only way forward. But what is important is that the United States will need to recognize that North Korea is a nuclear power, and also, without going all the way of signing a peace treaty, America would also need to lift some sanctions. Now, this will be a really bitter pill to swallow. It will upset a lot of people. It will upset American conservatives, South Korean conservatives. It will upset human rights activists. It will upset me. It will upset a lot of people. But the fact remains that North Korea will not ever denuclearize. And the only way for there to be peace between South and North Korea, minus a peace treaty, is for there to be a lifting of sanctions and for there to be a recognition of North Korea as a de facto nuclear power. It will not give North Korea everything it wants, which is a peace treaty and perhaps a withdrawal of American troops from the Korean Peninsula, but it would be a step forward for there to be a much more amicable relationship between the two Koreas. And if there is more amicability, if that's a real word, if there is a more amiable relationship between North and South Korea, it would compel America and South Korea to become even closer to each other. And once America is able to secure that, then South Korea would become firmly a part of America's camp and will really side with America against China and will also join the Quad in containing China. Now, the question is this a project worth pursuing? What I'm asking is, would the benefits of having Korea be a part of the Quad outweigh the costs that I just mentioned? This is a question that I cannot personally answer because while I've just mentioned a lot of different possibilities, as far as actual raw numbers go, I don't have any of that right now. But there will be a lot of people who would be really unhappy about any of these solutions that I just mentioned. There'll be some people who just scoff at it outright because there is a lot of bitter pills to swallow that I just mentioned. But the way that I see it, it is not impossible to really get America and South Korea to be much closer than they have been over the past few years. Okay, that brings us to the end of this discussion. As usual, if you like this video, don't forget to click on the like and subscribe and the notification bell. And if you have a comment, leave it down below. My name's John Lee, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.